Watch him throw the ball, we gon' pick it off. You gon' let him hit the hole or you gon' cut it off. You gon' play through fourth and long or you gon' punt it off. Your defenders, heavy hitters, put your pads in. Don't be looking for the ref to throw no flags in. Keep the helmet on, keep the cleats tight. You the type to want to win by any means, right? You should look alive. This is Trap or Die.
Yes, sir. Welcome back to another episode of the Trap or Die podcast. I'm your host of the Trap or Die podcast, Mual. Jerry's in the building. AJ's here. We're going to get him in a second. And joining us today, before we do that, matter of fact, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button on YouTube. We definitely appreciate that. If you are on the audio side, as always, we appreciate you all listening. Hit that follow button if you are new. Hit us with a rating and review as well. It's 10 seconds to do so, and it's free to show you support that way. So get that done. Joining us today is the big dog, man, Aaron Schatz, creator of the DVOA, ESPN Plus NFL analyst, CAO, Chief Analytics Officer, All-Pro MVP voter. He does a lot of things. And he says, I specialize in nuanced, ice-cold NFL takes. Straight from the bio. Aaron, how you doing today? I appreciate you joining us.
Good. I like your theme song. I like it says that we're not looking for the refs to throw a flag for us. That's how you know this is not a Kansas City Chiefs podcast.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah. You know, they went through, well, first off, Houston went through hell. They went through hell last week. We're not gonna rehash that, Aaron. But
yeah, you may be rehashing that in a week. We'll see.
That's true.
Maybe. Maybe. And obviously, as you all know, we have reached the point where Washington is in a conference championship week where they are actually featured. I mean, it's been a long time, 33 years. Dre knows that. Like he talks about, look,
I'm the old man here.
Yep. Yeah, I wasn't gonna say it, but you know, Dre knows it. But it's new era, it's new times for us, and for you who dives into the data side and understands. I mean, DVOA is a very favorable metric to understand like how well teams are performing. This is just kind of a unprecedented situation for Washington's offense. Like, how do you think from the point in which the season started to the point in which we are here right now going into a conference championship game in Washington, how this offense has evolved in your opinion?
Well, they went, I mean, first of all, at the beginning of the year, you're thinking, okay, this is good. Is this going to last? You know, rookie quarterbacks, you know, they start hot and then they fade and whatever. You had the few weeks where you had the rib injuries and things faded a little bit. And there was always that worry that we had the Cliff Kingsbury history, you know, where both at Texas Tech and at Arizona, his teams really fell off in the second half. But then they kind of turned things back around, and then the offense was really cooking, and it's been great in the playoffs, and whatever the Kingsbury second half thing was didn't happen. So this team's been totally driven by offense. I had them as, I think, the sixth best offense this year. And it's a below average defense. So the offense and Jaden Daniels really drive everything.
Well, Aaron, for me, I want to ask because I know before the season, and you just kind of touched on it a bit about Cliff, you know, his reputation at Texas Tech and Arizona. Do you think this season maybe kind of changes the perception? Because I know analytics-wise, chart-wise, he didn't grade out well for a lot of those years, and a lot of people were skeptical about what they could do because of that. Do you think this season kind of changes the perception going forward of Cliff Kingsbury?
Yeah, I mean, I think, first of all, the fact that they didn't fall apart in the second half of the year. And I think, second of all, that you saw him develop a rookie quarterback, like, very well. So the fact that Daniels had such a good season, I think, shines brightly upon Kingsbury.
What's the most impressive part about Jaden Daniels as this season has gone along? What's some of the things that stands out to you?
I mean, his rushing ability, obviously, from a statistical perspective, is what stands out. From a just watching the games perspective, it's that the dude is nails. I mean, he just doesn't seem to feel the pressure of the moment. The last couple of weeks, you've watched him when they show him on the sidelines, he just seems so even keeled. And so his performance, you're seeing a really great performance, and the stats all show that. But what really stands out to me is just the screenshots, just seeing how even-keeled he is about everything.
So, Aaron, before I go into an analytical question, appreciate you even joining us here this afternoon on Trapper Dive. If I'm not mistaken, I heard that you have an MVP vote.
Yes.
Okay, so with that being said, I think here in the DMV, Washington, D.C. metropolitan area, we're seeing a quarterback that we've never seen before. I would say the greatest in our era under the Washington Commanders. Right, I almost called them the other name. With that being said, did you hear from any of your colleagues, or did you even at any point consider in your voting, if you did or didn't, checking that box for Jaden Daniels as a possible MVP vote?
I don't think I ever considered Daniels for the top spot on the MVP ballot, but I can tell you that I've absolutely considered him for one of the 5 spots. We vote for 5 people.
Yeah.
And I think I've been pretty clear that I feel like the MVP this year is either Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen. And I don't think that I'm giving much away if I say those are the 2 guys that are in my top 2 spots. I'm not going to say who I have number 1. But Daniels has absolutely gotten consideration for being in one of the 5 spots that you vote. Absolutely.
What about conversations with your colleagues? Did any of them tell you, hey,
I have surprisingly not really had conversations with the other voters. I kind of did it all on my own. Like, I would feel a little weird, like influencing each other. So I sort of never really talked to like Doug or Mina or the other voters that I know about like who they were going to vote for.
Gotcha.
Doug Farrar from Athlon Sports and Mina Kimes, of course, from ESPN.
Jaden has the first 2 games of the playoffs is basically been carrying the team on offense. 300 yards, 350 specifically against the Detroit Lions, but over 300 yards in terms of total passing and rushing against Tampa Bay and Detroit, respectively. He's basically been a high percentage of the offense. I think 87% against Tampa Bay, 76, I believe, against Detroit. Lower, but still high and from comparison sakes. But where does this offense rank just from a efficiency standpoint among the playoff teams and obviously the last 4 remaining?
I mean, if you look at regular season performance, they're ahead of Philadelphia, and I believe they're ahead of Kansas City slightly, even if you take out week 18 when Kansas City really did not care. Played one of the worst games ever against Denver.
But they had their second and third stringers in, not even starters.
Even the second and third stringers didn't really seem to care.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, the offense is quality. The run game is good. And I would even say the raw stats make it look so much like Daniels is doing it on his own. But you have to remember, for example, the McLaurin touchdown that was almost all yards after the catch, right? That's it. If you break things down a little bit more, that's obviously a lot McLaurin. So if, he didn't have such a great number 1 receiver, everything works in tandem. But there's no question the Washington offense is a very good offense.
And Aaron, for me, I look at the DVOA system. I love it personally when I'm talking about, how you actually grade defenses and offenses. Can you tell the people that may not really know what goes into DVOA, what factors into your grading system for that?
Yeah, it's not a grading as much as it is just sort of a looking at efficiency. It looks at the yards you gain on every play based on the down and distance, right? 3rd and 4, 5 yards is good. 3rd and 15, 5 yards is not good, right? Yards are created differently depending on the situation. Then it compares that to a league average baseline, which is adjusted for the situation and the opponent to tell you how efficient the team is, do offense, defense, and special teams.
Gotcha.
So I think from a run game two angles, honestly, and you can speak on both, but I think there was 2 separate changes / improvements on the Commanders' defensive side of the football. For a good half of the first half of the season, the passing defense had several different communications that led to explosive plays and busting breakdowns and things like that. And then for even a larger part of the first half of the season, maybe I don't even know how long. I'm not going to put a number on it, but the run game or run defense had struggled tremendously as well. But I know things have turned around from a visual and just from a film standpoint. But from a statistical standpoint, was there like breakthroughs from how they
not as much as you might expect? Like I went and I broke down just by the half of the season. So just by weeks 1 to 9 compared to 10 to 18. And the run defense was 26th in the first 9 weeks, but it only improved to 19th in the next 9 weeks. So it hasn't been a particularly good run defense, but it has been better than it was at the beginning of the season.
Aaron, might you know within the Philadelphia Eagles offense, how many times on first down are they running versus passing?
Oh, I don't know the percentage, but I believe it's pretty high as far as their run pass ratio is one of the highest ones in the league.
Okay. Yeah, I'm probably going to ask you another question you may not know off the top of your head. I was just curious from like an analytical standpoint, how many times maybe Darius Slay plays left cornerback versus right cornerback.
Oh, I don't know the answer to that. I think the Eagles are more of a cornerback, but they used to be more of a take my top guy and follow you around type team.
Travel. Yeah.
And
but
I think
Fangio's
this year
different.
they're more of a leaving guy. They feel strong enough about Mitchell that they can leave the guys on specific sides. Now, what happens if Mitchell's hurt and can't play in this game? Yeah. Then do they take Slay and they travel him because they don't necessarily think that Isaiah Rodgers is the same quality of cornerback on the other side? I don't know if they'll choose to do that. Their cornerbacks had just really great years. Like they were all really good this year. Even Rodgers, in the limited amount he played in the regular season, was good. Although obviously he's the weakest of the four.
My question, and staying on the Philadelphia side, I mean, throughout the playoffs, I mean, to the naked eye, they haven't looked too great on offense. I mean, their defense is a monster. How efficient is that offense running through the playoffs so far?
Yeah, it's not. They were 12th in the regular season. I know everyone feels like the passing game is a little bit limited, and it shouldn't be. The quality of the receivers that they have. A.J. Brown had like 7 targets in the last game and only caught 2 of them, which is like a real surprise. So, I mean, yeah, obviously the offense has been much more driven by the run game over the last couple of weeks. I do feel like they're better passing than people give them credit for. ESPN has these receiver metrics that are based on the tracking, the next gen stats tracking, and they always come out with A.J. Brown as basically the top guy in the league.
That offense, well, yeah, I stick on there for a second. I think that's a compelling argument because, and I say that because when you look at the fan base or you hear people on the Eagles, Twitter, social media, things like that, like they're adamant that the passing game is a strength, but it's underutilized for obvious reasons. Saquon is doing his thing in the run game, and that needs to be taken into account. If it did come down to a Jalen Hurts, and Washington found a way to, force them into those passing situations. Like, is there a confidence level that you have, like on that offensive side, where it's like they can step up, or is this something where it's like I don't know? Like, what's your mindset on that?
I still feel like it's a good passing game. Obviously, they've got a good offensive line. They've got the good receivers. I mean, they don't really have a third receiver. You guys know about Dotson, so that's not like telling y'all anything you don't know. But
a little thing about Dotson.
I mean, my friend Mike, who's an Eagles fan, calls him Jahan Decoy. So
I call him Jahan Cardio.
like one of the weaknesses of the Washington defense, I will say, is passes up the middle.
Okay.
And Jalen Hurts passes up the middle less than pretty much any other quarterback in the league. So if you're playing Philadelphia, that's a reasonable weakness to have because they're not going to really take advantage of it.
Defensively for Philadelphia, obviously I think their strengths. I mean, we talked about Quinyon for a second, but Jalen Carter, Zach Bond came out of nowhere this year, but like they possessed for 80% of the season a top 3 defense. What's your opinion on them in terms of the matchup going up against Washington? I mean, it's strength versus strength there. What's your opinion on that matchup?
I mean, their defense is even stronger than the Washington offense is. That's the number 1 defense of the year, really, the Philadelphia Eagles. Especially if you take out the first 3 or 4 weeks of the season. If you just look at like the last 3 months, they've been the best defense in the league. It's working in every way. Tons of good players. I mean, it's funny they signed Bryce Huff to this big free agent contract as a pass rusher, and they don't even use him. Like, I don't even think he played a snap.
He doesn't play. I think I seen. I think it might have been a guy named Booker that was.
Yeah, they're just abounding in riches if they don't even need to play the guy they gave all this money to. So, I mean, that's a really good defense. Obviously, Fangio is a really good coordinator. It's not. A lot of stuff about this game comes down to the Eagles just look like the better team.
Yeah.
But they're not unbeatable. It's not, they're not the better team by leaps and bounds. Their defense is a little bit better than the Washington offense, and their offense is a little bit better than the Washington defense, but it's not like, I think the line is what, 6? I think that's about right.
It just moved up to 6.
And the Washington we know Washington can beat the Eagles because they've done it. Now, obviously, Kenny Pickett was at quarterback for that game, but still, like, you still had to score on their defense to win that game. So we know that they can do it.
And Washington turned the ball over 5 times in that game.
Yeah.
That game was kind of wild. The fact that Washington turned the ball over so much, but also scored so much, was you don't normally do both of those things.
And I would be remiss before we, get out of here, not bringing up Washington and them leading the league in 4th down conversion. What's your personal take on NFL teams overall and being more aggressive in the approach of going for these 4th downs versus maybe a decade ago settling for a punt or a field goal?
Oh, I love it. Listen, analytics people, we've been babbling about this since I started doing this 21 years ago, right? Like when I first started, we were talking about go for it more often on 4th down, go for it more often on 4th down. It's really funny. Quinn was actually kind of league average in how often he went for it on 4th down. He's been more aggressive in the playoffs than he was in the regular season. Mm-hmm. And they've just been really, really successful when they've done it. But he's not quite as aggressive as like Dan Campbell is. But when he does it, it's worked. Like they've been really successful at it. And in the playoffs, he's pulled the trigger on it more often than you would expect. And it's been really successful for them. So I say, keep going. And the Eagles are an aggressive team on 4th down too. Both of these teams are aggressive on 4th down. So I think it's better football. It's smarter football. And it's also more fun to watch football because punts are not that exciting.
Well, that's if you're not a fan. These are heart attacks for me, bro. I can't. I struggle sometimes when you can kick a field goal.
The upside is so good, but the downside is bad. Yeah, it's a risk. It's a risk. I mean, you got to be able to accept the risk.
What's the league average on that? Actually, on you said.
Oh, I don't remember, but it jumped in 2018. So when the Eagles won the Super Bowl over the Patriots at the end of the 2017 season, everyone looked at the Eagles and went, well, I guess we should be going for it on 4th down more often now. And like league-wide in 2018, teams started going for it on 4th down much more. So like over the last few years, it's just been much higher than it was before that.
Aaron, man, I appreciate you taking such a amount of time, a few minutes out of your day, honestly, to give us some time and talk some ball, Commanders and the Eagles. Now that you are unbiased individual too, let's get a prediction and then get you the platform to let the people know where they can find you, hear from you, read your work, all that good stuff. What's the prediction for the Sunday's game?
Well, I don't know if I'm going to drive that many people to my platform by being honest, which is that I would pick the Eagles in this game. I mean, I do think the Eagles were the better team over the course of the season, but not, again, it's not by leaps and bounds. It's not the kind of situation where you're like writing Washington off. And the other thing is, like I said, Daniels is nails. Like when they talk about no rookie quarterback has ever made the Super Bowl, when you watch him play and the like lack of nervousness that he seems to have, you think to yourself, well, that could be the first one. Like he absolutely could. So I would pick Philadelphia, but if Washington wins, it will not be a shock to me.
Aaron, let the people know where they can find you, hear from you. Obviously, CAO of FTN Fantasy, but the floor is yours, boss man.
Yeah, FTNFantasy.com. My page is FTNFantasy.com/DVOA. Definitely come check out all the stuff we have. We'll have big playoff previews up Friday. Brian Knowles is writing the Washington Philly preview. I'm doing Buffalo, Kansas City. We've got our stats hub with tons of stats and charting. We've got all kinds of DFS optimizers and picks, stuff for other sports too. I only do the NFL, but our site does baseball, basketball, even like golf, which I know nothing about, but our golf guys are really smart. So there's just a lot of good information. FTNFantasy.com. I'm on Twitter at AShotsNFL, and I'm on Blue Sky at just AaronSchatz.com.
There it is. Until next time, y'all, we up out of here. Stay safe. All that good stuff.
Appreciate you.
Chop it down. Chop it down. Chop it down. You gon' chop it down. Chop it down. You gon' chop it down. Damn, set. Watch him throw the ball. We gon' pick it off. You gon' let him hit the hole or you gon' cut it off. You gon' play through 4th and long or you gon' punt it off. Your defenders, heavy hitters, put your pads in. Don't be looking for the ref to throw no flags in. Keep the helmet on, keep the cleats tight. You the type to want to win by any means, right? You should look alive. This is Trap or Die.